We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening. It is the 9 straight games the Eagles win and everyone is angry episode. My personal favourite. Did they win the? They didn't win the East this week, did they either? Because I'm making it up, aren't they? Because is it win the East? Do they have to win like 1 or 2 more?
I think I know they clinched the playoffs.
That was it. They clinched the playoffs. As I'm saying it, I was like, they can't have won the East because Washington's near them. So yeah, the good old 9 straight wins, clinched the playoffs, and Philadelphia Twitter is burning down. Love it. Yeah, what a weird week. I went to bed last night and in the Patreon Discord, when I woke up, I just got, when Jonny sees this, the BG news, and I was like, what BG news? Like he's coming back. He's made it.
Oh, no.
And no. Yeah, it turns out that he decided to just say that AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts hate each other. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, from what I can see, we won't talk about it on the show, but I didn't think the comments were as bad as I read. There hasn't seemed to have that much traction today, but I'm sure it will be mentioned a lot in the week ahead. So there we go.
Yeah, we are doing a Tuesday episode of the podcast because Jonny made us move it up a day. And
My fault.
All I can say is Jonny and I used to be friends before this, but there's some stuff that got in the way that we're going to have to work through now.
If it makes you feel better, it has increased my workload by an insane amount these past 2 days. And I'm doing it again next week. Scheduling. Christmas is hectic around this time of year. So I'm out tomorrow night and I'm out next Wednesday night. So we're bringing the pod forward a day. And I can't say I'm too impressed with myself either because this has been a rough 2 days. It's 8 o'clock over in the UK. We'll finish this probably gone 9, and then I've still got to write an offensive and defensive article for BGN. So, there we go. If it makes you feel any better, Shane, I am not best pleased about it either. But we shall still get to it.
Yeah, like Jonny mentioned, next week we will be on Tuesday as well. And then the following week is the week of Christmas, and that's just going to be a disaster all the way around. I'm not sure that I will be able to record, period, because I'll be traveling Tuesday through Thursday. So Jonny may be solo for that week. I also may not get a pass game review out for that week. So it's great stuff. Thank you for joining our Patreon. We're not going to have any content for you, but we're going to try something a little different for this episode because we had a day less of prep time. And you guys let us know in the Discord or in comments on Patreon if you're not in the Discord what you think of the show. If you've got suggestions of tweaks for next week, because we're certainly open to that. We definitely don't feel we've both watched all of the film and we can talk about it. Just structurally, we might not be quite as prepared this week. So we're going to see how it goes. And you guys feel free to give us feedback as we go along. But on the Patreon player spotlight polls, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown were the 2 guys that shockingly were chosen. And we kind of feel like everybody just wants to talk about the pass game this week. I don't think anybody cares about the run game. I don't think anybody cares about the defense too much. And our general rule on the podcast is whichever side of the ball we start with will take almost an hour, and we're going to rush through the second half. So we're going to start offense. We are abandoning the 3-point structure for offense this week. And we're just going to kind of go through Jonny's thread and talk about what we're seeing on these plays. So, you can go to Jonny's film thread. We will call out the numbers as we go for those of you that are just listening on podcasting platforms. And we're going to see how this goes. So, Jonny, this feels like we've scripted this about as well as the Eagles script through opening drives. We have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's just dive in. Where shall we start?
Hopefully we're better than the Eagles out of structure because they suck out of structure. So we're out of structure now, Shane. So it could all go horribly wrong. Yeah, basically we had lots of chats. I say lots of chat. We had a few messages off air today. Like everyone wants to talk about pass game, and I want to talk about pass game, to be honest. So like I discussed doing like different things. Do we critique Hurts? And basically, I feel like everyone wants to know what the hell is the problem with the pass game. Is it design, Hurts, receivers, O-line, like big picture faults? We're going to just go through like multiple passing plays. We'll just give our take. I come down this week on being more angry at design, and I don't think Hurts played well. And I think whenever I say bad things about the design, everyone goes, he's defending Hurts again. I'm like, both things can be true. Like Hurts cannot play well, and I can also not be very impressed with the design of the offense. So let's just go through a bunch of plays, Shane, and we might as well start with the first Friday game because in true Eagles fashion, literally the first play of the game is the biggest talking point this week. So I'll give my take first, and then I feel like everyone's already done this play to death, so we won't spend forever on it. It is a 3-level stretch play. The Eagles have Jahan Dotson running a like very, very, very short route. I assume it's Devontae Smith running the intermediate route. And then AJ Brown is running basically a go route. Now, AJ Brown is probably not even part of the progression necessarily. And again, I'm going to caveat by saying everything we say in this episode, every single play you see here can be run differently depending on how it's coached. So please keep anyone in mind who thinks they know everything, even QB guys, like film guys, they don't always know exactly what Moore is saying and what the offense is being told to do. So some teams will run this 1 to 2 to 3. They'll basically go from, is the deep guy open? Is the intermediate open? Is the check down open? Some teams will basically run it 1 to 2, and they'll have an alert, which I think the Eagles use on AJ Brown. And basically an alert means that if Hurts sees the safety or the intermediate defender biting hard, he can then alert to the number one. I think context matters, Shane, on this play. First play of the game. The very, very first, it was the first throw of the game, wasn't it? Was it the first play of the game as well?
It was the first throw, second play. You get flagged for a holding on the first play. So this is 1st and 18.
Right. So you're already backed up, 1st and 18. You are already a quarterback who doesn't seem to be in very much rhythm at the start. I think Jalen Hurts should throw this ball. I think when he hits his back foot, I think it's quite clear that the Panthers cornerback who's the Panthers cornerback again? Remind me, I forgot his name.
JC Horn.
Yes, their best guy. He is jumping the intermediate route, and AJ Brown is free. And I think he could see this as he hits his back foot, which is basically now. However, I'll also point out that like it's not the worst miss the world has ever seen. It's not so disgusting that, oh my God, how has he done this? I think it's a miss. I think he is obviously expecting JC Horn to follow AJ Brown. And if Horn does follow AJ Brown, like I think most people would expect pre-snap, then there is nothing wrong with Jalen Hurts the way he reads this. I will just say playing quarterback in the NFL is tough. And basically, Hurts' big criticism of late, I think the last 3 years probably, has been he processes things too slow. We have spoke about him processing things too slow before on this show. I think in this game, he's making a really concerted effort to eliminate what is not there quickly. I think he's trying to get through his reads quickly. 1 to 2 to 3, bang, get the ball out. And I think sometimes you can eliminate things too quickly. And I think this is an example of him eliminating what isn't there too early. And it seems weird to say it, doesn't it, Shane? When do we say this about Jalen Hurts? I think Jalen Hurts should be more aggressive. So if we're talking about blame on this play, I don't give any blame to anyone else but the quarterback. Do you agree with me? Do you see the play the same way?
I do for the most part. So, yeah, when you run that sail concept, you are normally trying to get the intermediate route open. Like you just assume they're not going to let the deep route just run wide open. Like that's the assumption. Hey, we don't want to give up a 75-yard touchdown. So we're probably going to cover the deep route. And so what you're really trying to do is just scratch AJ Brown, scratch JC Horn, and you're trying to high-low the flat defender, which in this case, it's not the running back. You're trying to high-low the flat defender. My problem is, so if AJ Brown, if you just assume he's going to be covered, then hit your back foot and get this ball out to Jahan Dotson like now, because the flat defender bailed out. And if you get this ball to Dotson now while he's still retreating, while Dotson's still moving, you're probably going to get more yards. And so it's one of those things like I think you should either be off of Brown faster getting the ball to Dotson, or you should stay on Brown longer. But you kind of split the difference and you end up in the worst possible outcome. That said, the worst possible outcome is still a 5-yard gain. And if this is 1st and 10 instead of 1st and 18 because your Hall of Fame right tackle held on the first play of the game, it's fine. 2nd and 5 is fine. 2nd and 13 sucks. And so I also think there's an element of, hey, it is 1st and 18. I would like for you to try to throw this deep ball. Who knows? J.C. Horn's really good. Maybe the coaching staff told Hurts, hey, we don't want to test J.C. Horn. And you certainly don't anticipate him just leaving a guy, his assignment, by the way. He's rolling the dice. If Jalen Hurts throws this, the Panthers defensive coordinator is going to be so mad at J.C. Horn on the sideline after this play when he gives up a 73 or 83-yard touchdown pass on the first passing play of the game for the Eagles. So, I mean, J.C. Horn is rolling the dice. It is not sound defense. I would like to see Hurts trigger on that throw. I do think it's a bigger deal than it should be because it is 1st and 18 and because of A.J. Brown's comments after the game.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll move on pretty quickly from that play, I think the Eagles coaching staff definitely said to avoid J.C. Horn, in my opinion, because they did not go after him deep at all. I also think the whole design of the pass game is worth remembering that it's a run-first, defense-orientated team. I think everyone's got a little bit mad with Hurts doesn't want to turn the ball over now, and I think you can get a little bit down the weeds quickly. We don't know what he's being told, so we got to chill a little bit. But it's worth pointing out that essentially this is a run-first team and a very, very good defense, so he doesn't need to be Superman. He doesn't need to throw the ball a lot down the field. So maybe he's got that in his mind as well. If he gets picked there, suddenly the sky's falling in early on. So yeah, I think that's a bad Hurts play, but I also think it's not the biggest. It's not an absolute nightmare. Oh my God, what is he looking at type of play? Let's move on to something that was a common theme, Shane. So play 3 of the film thread. We mentioned this on the post-game show, and we're a bit confused because we said we didn't think pass protection was great, and then you looked at PFF numbers, and linemen didn't really give up any sacks. But on the All-22, I didn't think pass protection was great. It was good in basic standard dropbacks, but their play-action game was horrendous. And I just wanted to point out this play. There's no real analysis needed of this play, Shane. When we talk about the design of the passing game, I am not just talking about the struggles of Jalen Hurts. The Eagles only throw the ball about 20 to 25 times. They blew, I think, 3 play-action pass attempts in this game, Shane. Could that be right? There was this one. There was one later. I'm sure there was another one.
Yeah.
You can't blow, just straight up blow, 3 out of 20 or 3 out of 25, pass attempps. How many times did Hurts actually attempt to throw in this game? Couldn't have been more than 30. So you're talking, nearly 10%, around 10% of your pass game where you're just blowing pass protection of the line. And there's not really much to analyze here. They just get it wrong. They obviously, whatever they're doing play action wise, I don't know exactly who's being coached to do what. But the Eagles are normally quite good at play action when they run it. They don't run it that often, but they're good at it. That's really depressing and really disappointing because there's no point even talking design. Design doesn't matter. The quarterback doesn't matter. If you can't block and you end up with a free rusher on your quarterback, unless he makes a ridiculously superhero play, which he does later on a couple of times, there's nothing you can do here. And it's just worth pointing out that it's not all on the QB. It's the design as a whole. Talk us through the concept and why it would have actually worked and how it's a really good design by Kellen Moore, ironically.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to play action and throw the dig route to A.J. Brown. You manipulate the linebackers up to the line of scrimmage. It opens the throwing window. It works to perfection, except the Eagles just don't block anybody. A.J. Brown is wide open. And, I mean, at the point he makes his break, Hurts is already almost on the ground. So I felt like watching live, the offensive line was really bad. I was shocked that the charting numbers showed that they were pretty good. And watching the film, I think they were pretty good, except when they weren't. But the plays where they weren't, that's great analysis. I think they were good, except for when they weren't. But when Hurts was sacked or when Hurts was pressured, it was an immediate, we didn't even block this guy and we should have. Not it was a great scheme that got a free runner by the defense. It was, we just didn't block this guy for some reason. And it was immediate and it was obvious. And outside of a handful of plays, the offensive line did play really good, but you can't have those handful of plays. The offensive line is the strength of the offense they're supposed to be, and that can't happen.
And also, Shane, the entire offense, if it's going to be run first, you can't take negative plays. Like, you got to
Yes.
stay on track. They're absolute killers. They put you in like first and 18, second and 20. You can't be a run first team in that situation. So yeah, let's move on. This one, I'm really interested to know your thoughts because a little bit behind the curtain, we try not to talk about plays that much. The Discord has changed that a little bit because I do get comments in there. But I desperately try to ignore everything before I watch. Live, this is play 5, by the way. I thought this was an absolute disaster of a play by Jalen Hurts. Because it looked like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown were wide open. The Eagles motion Saquon Barkley out to the flat, and they run a 2-receiver set to the left-hand side. It's basically a double slant or a slant in, and there is nothing in the middle of the field, like literally nothing. Do you want to talk me through your perspective, Shane, seeing as I've gone first? And I think I might nitpick this one, and I'm interested to know your thoughts. But go for it first.
Yeah, so the motion out from Saquon gives you a pretty good idea this is man-to-man coverage because the linebacker follows him. And so you've got your man-to-man beater at the bottom. It is a massive bonus when the linebacker blitzes because now there's nobody in the middle of the field. And so you're running in breakers. You don't have to worry about that linebacker. To me, I think you read this from Smith as the 1 to Brown as the 2. Like that's how it makes sense. Your eyes are moving right to left, not going way out and then coming back. Like, so to me, Devontae Smith is the first read and Devontae Smith is open. Ball's out now. That's a completion. Now I will note like Hurts starts to separate and then he stops. He double clutches. And I think he does it because the blitzing linebacker jumps. Two things is like the pocket is perfect. Like this is the point where the linebacker leaves the ground. It's the point where Hurts double clutches. The pocket's perfect. Like this is a short throw. There's nobody in the middle of the field. I still think you can stay there and you can get that ball out. I mean, and again, Jalen Hurts is not Patrick Mahomes. How many times do you see Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen change the throwing angle, change the arm slot? It's not a long throw. You can throw that kind of drop the arm slot, get it around the guy as he's coming back down. You don't even have to set your feet. It's not a long throw. I'd like to see him do that. I would also like to see Landon Dickerson put this linebacker on the ground. Anytime a guy jumps, when he leaves the ground, he should not land on his feet because he's lost all leverage. So Landon Dickerson should pancake this guy before he hits the ground. I think Hurts needs to pull the trigger here. Like, I understand why he pulls it down. I think he should still make the throw after he double clutches. It's open. We can talk about AJ Brown. AJ Brown shouldn't be open. The only reason AJ Brown is open is because the corner kind of stumbles coming out of this break. If you watch him, he kind of stumbles and almost falls. It's a tough miss. And I just think I want to see Hurts trigger on that throw. I understand why he double clutches it. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but without pressure, I would like to see him stay in the pocket and still make that throw.
Yeah, right. Let's get nitpicky. I've stared at this say so many times to see where he's going. Is he going to Devontae Smith or AJ Brown? I've seen different perspectives. Some people think he's throwing to Devontae. I think Dan Orlovsky said today he thinks he's throwing to AJ Brown. I think he's throwing to Devontae, but I don't really know, and it's impossible to tell. So I went down a proper rabbit hole, and the reason why my workload was horrendous yesterday was I ended up spending 10 minutes watching a double slant clinic. And then reading a Stanford passing game clinic on double slants. So I feel like I'm now a double slants expert. And basically everything I read and everything I read and everything I thought as well is that they need to be at different depths of target. And I think if you're really being picky, and I say all the time, the really small stuff matters in the NFL. I don't like the way the Eagles run this. I think Devontae Smith runs it too deep. I think he should be earlier, and I think it could be back foot throw. I think you could argue Jalen Hurts is slightly late here, but I would want to see Devontae Smith as like a one-step drop bang slant. And also, I want to see AJ Brown significantly deeper than him. So the reason being is that Jalen Hurts could then bang, not there, reset feet, get to AJ Brown still on the third step of his drop. If you look at it, if he is throwing to Devontae here, by the time he actually goes to release it and hits his back foot, AJ Brown's already in. You're going to have to completely reset your feet and move in the pocket and then throw the in. It's just a bit, it just doesn't, there's something that doesn't look right about it to me. I'm also going to say something that I'm allowed to say on the podcast because people can't hear it. I think people can't see it or read it, in fact. I think AJ Brown has a touch, and I know we're not allowed to criticize AJ because he is one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best. I think he has a touch of the lethargic route runner when he's not getting the ball in the first read. And I think sometimes it matters, and I don't think he runs this really, really hard. I think he could probably keep going across the formation to try and create something for Hurts. My gut tells me it's like an okay route. And I think once he makes a decision not to go to Devontae Smith, I'm not sure there's much else for him. Like, I'm being very nitpicky. It's double slants. The perfect play is like, it's a perfectly fine call. Everyone runs double slant. But I ended up watching like a good old Tanner McKee because I was watching, was he at Stanford? Whoever he was with.
Yeah, he was at Stanford.
There we go. So I was watching clinics of like Tanner McKee, there we go, throwing a double slant. And long story short, the depth of target is dramatically different. So when the inside guy is breaking in, the outside guy doesn't really break until like a whole second later. And my gut tells me that like it's just the timing's off. I think it's very easy to blame Hurts, and I think Hurts absolutely deserves blame, and I think he could step around the offensive lineman and throw it. I just feel like there's something off. Like there's a and he's been off all year. He's been off the entire year. The passing game has never looked smooth to me. There's so many plays that I look and I'm just like, I don't really fully like the design. I think it could be better. There are minor things they could do. Yeah, let's keep going. I'll carry on if you don't mind. I'll go straight into play 6 because this is another example of a minor design flaw. So I think the Eagles' plan here is man coverage, throw it to AJ Brown one-on-one on the go route, zone coverage, settle down against the comeback routes in the middle of the field. But AJ Brown's being covered by JC Horn, and I'll be honest, AJ Brown is pretty well pressed here. Like, I think Hurts could throw this ball. How many times have we sat in Shane and everyone goes, 3rd and 7, and all you're going to do is throw it up to AJ Brown for a 50-50 ball. That's not good enough. Well, all right, let's say Jalen Hurts makes, in my opinion, the correct decision not to throw it to AJ Brown because I think he gets a pretty good press on him here. I think that's their best cornerback. That's not a lot of separation. If you throw the perfect pass, you might get away with it. But we've been trying to say we want more. So if you're not going to AJ Brown, what else have you got? You've got a very, very, very deep out with a far hash, which is looking like Kirk Cousins pick 6 territory if you try and throw that. Then you've got 2 comeback routes, which are meant to be against zone coverage. There's nothing there against man. They are easy routes to cover. Jalen Hurts buys a bit of time. I think this is a miscommunication with Johnny Wilson because Johnny Wilson comes charging back towards the ball. Jalen Hurts throws him upfield. Again, minor details matter. I just look at this play, Shane, and I go, there's no horizontal stretch. There's no like crossing over. There's no, they're not challenging the defender's communication. They're just running comebacks again. Like, and people can say, well, Hurts should throw it deep. Fine. All right. Granted. Fine. Do you know what? When Hurts went deep, Shane, and people who listened to me for a while, I wasn't that critical with the one-on-one shots to AJ Brown. I've been pretty consistent that I have never moaned that much about the one-on-one shots to AJ Brown because I've always been a pretty big fan of them. I can understand why he's not taking a shot against JC Horn in really good press coverage there. So if you're not going to go to that side of the field, and I think he eliminates it really quickly, correctly, we're just not really giving him anything else. Like, you could run a high-low, you could run, there's hundreds of concepts you could run. We don't need to go through them all. But running 2 comebacks in the middle of the field and an out route, like the other side of the field, there's nothing there. So in terms of blame, I think this one's more on the design than on the performance of the quarterback. And this is 3rd and 7. You don't get many 3rd downs in the game. The Eagles, the way they play, don't get many 3rd and longs. You only really need to prep, 7 to 10 plays for this kind of situation, and that's the one you're calling. Like, that's disappointing. What do you think?
You know how much I love a backside timing route. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, true.
And I'm with you. Like, I don't think that AJ, you could throw the AJ Brown ball. It's not a high percentage throw. And there's nothing else. And like, this is one that on the broadcast you think is really bad on Hurts because it's like, how do you overthrow Jonny Wilson? He has 8-foot long arms. And then you see it on the All-22 and it's like, well, yeah, he comes back 2 yards to the ball and Hurts is trying to throw him upfield. And so that's one where the film is really important because watching live, because heaven forbid we get a replay on a broadcast, but or any sort of intelligent talk about what's happening on the field. It just looks like it's a bad overthrow, and I see why it happens there. But you mentioned like throwing deep. The last 4 games of the season, let's see. Jalen Hurts' average depth of target, 3 of his lowest 4 average depth of target games on the season are in 3 of the last 4 games. They're just not pushing the ball downfield anymore either, which is what makes, and we'll get to curl routes later, I'm sure, because if you don't bring it up, I'm going to. But curl routes are the Eagles' only answer on 3rd and long. It's the only thing that they have. And when you no longer throw the vertical routes ever, because the Eagles don't anymore, the windows on those curl routes are going to get tighter and tighter because teams are going to stop respecting them. And you really see that come out late in this game.
Yeah, I actually didn't post the one to Devonta. I think you might talk about later because I already posted like 17 clips, which for me is ridiculous because I write all of these clips up for BGN. And again, people are going to say, well, it's Jalen Hurts. That's why we're not throwing it. And I'm like, come on. Jalen Hurts might not be able to hit a backside dig like Matthew Stafford can, but he can run like post will. Like he can run a high-low. Like it's calm down a little bit. He might not be the world's best processor. You may not be able to run like 50,000 concepts. You can run more than curls. That's a little bit of like an easy out for Kellen Moore. I did have a little bit of a Kellen Moore argument yesterday when someone said, well, he's been brilliant and never been criticized anywhere else he's been. And I was like, yes, he has. Go and ask Cowboys fans what they think of his last year. Chargers weren't, John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh wasn't like desperate to keep him in the building. I like Kellen Moore. I think he's had a good year. Don't get me wrong, but it's calmed down a little bit. They're like, it must be the quarterback only and nothing. Kellen Moore's been running comebacks on 3rd down for years. Yeah, let's move on because we need to be possibly a little bit quicker. Shock horror. I have nothing to say about 7. You can show it very quickly for people listening. It's another play action throw. It's another disaster in pass protection. They ask Grant Calcaterra to block a defensive tackle. I'll let you be the judge of how that went. Jalen Hurts shrugs off 2 defenders, makes a ridiculously athletic play, and completely bows the Eagles coaching staff out on this play. And when we're talking about Hurts, if you're not going to point out this kind of stuff as well, then you're very biased in your analysis because you can't just criticize the guy all game and not basically point out, but he also saved the Eagles from 2 more horrendous sacks in this one. Anything else to say about this one, or should we move straight on?
Yeah, I mean, I think he bails Mekhi Becton out, honestly, because I highly doubt this is how the staff drew this one up because Grant Calcaterra is
fair point.
Because Grant Calcaterra not only is like, they're not asking him to like block a defensive tackle while they boot away. He's just like running into him and then releasing to the flat. Like you would never draw that up. I think that's a Mekhi Becton issue, but Jordan Mailata also gets beat inside and Hurts just shrugs them both off. And for a rushing offense that struggles when they're behind the sticks, going from 2nd and 15, which is what 2nd 15, 2nd 18, whatever that sack would have been, to a big scramble for a first down is huge for the offense.
Yeah. Next one's really interesting. Play 8. This is the first touchdown. I find it hilarious how much now everyone's got the All-22. Everyone loves it. And it's great, by the way. I'm not criticizing it. But now we're picking holes in touchdown throws as well. We're like, oh, what a great touchdown throw. But could have thrown the other touchdown throw, couldn't he? And I'm like, Jesus, let's all just chill a little bit. I don't know what is going on here. I don't know how it's coached. Again, I keep saying this. A.J. Brown is running a slant. Devontae Smith is running an out. A.J. Brown is wide open. Jalen Hurts takes a 3-step drop, and A.J. Brown needs to be a 1-step drop and hit it. It looks to me like Devontae Smith is the main read on the play, in which case it's a fantastic route. It's a fantastic throw. It's a lovely touchdown. But everyone's going mental because A.J. Brown doesn't get the ball, and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown now hate each other. So it's now a narrative. If this is like week 5 and everything's going well with A.J. Brown, no one ever talks about this play again. I don't know. Should he throw it to A.J. Brown? I think so. Is it the end of the world that he doesn't? No. If he thinks Devontae Smith is going to be open, fine. Anything else, or do you really want to nitpick a touchdown more than I am?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that the reason Hurts doesn't throw this ball to A.J. Brown is because they're not friends anymore. So that's
nailed it. If you look, actually, there's an invisible defender with the word friends just on the goal line there. And
I dive into this one a lot I've already recorded my Hurts pass game review and I haven't released it yet because I've got to do the intro outro, but I go into this play quite in depth there. The simple answer is that pre-snap, So this works if it's press coverage, because you've got off coverage here against AJ Brown. Like,
yeah,
the cornerback should be going over this. And all of a sudden, this isn't open. If the cornerback plays this correctly, it's kind of like the JC Horn thing earlier. If JC Horn plays sound defense, AJ Brown's not open. If this cornerback plays sound defense and comes over the top from an off coverage alignment, this isn't nearly this open. Now, he just runs into people for no real reason, but Hurts sees pre-snap and he's already going to our look against off coverage is Devontae Smith. That's why, like, he takes the 3-step drop. You can't throw it to AJ Brown off the 3-step drop. That's why he makes that throw. Now, that said, I would like you to take a 1-step drop and check your homework post-snap. Like, pre-snap, we were like, hey, this is our primary. Post-snap, let's just confirm that. And let's check the route that breaks earlier. And hey, it's wide open. Let's make that easier throw. So that's something, like, if I was in the QB room, I would be pointing that out this week. Like, hey, you read this out correctly pre-snap. Let's go ahead and take the 1-step drop next time. And so if the corner loses his mind and just takes himself out of the play, we can make the easier throw. But there's one later where he turns down AJ Brown that I have a problem with. This one, it's pre-snap dictating that.
Yeah, we will get to that. Right, let's move on. Play 9, interesting one to break down. I think this is a combination of Hurts at fault and design at fault. So basically, the running play action, they actually block people this time, which is nice. And AJ Brown is running like a deep comeback. And I think there is a window. I think there is a hell of a small window. I think it's a tight window. But I think a really top-level quarterback can hit his back foot here and rip it to the outside. I think it's doable. Is it the highest percentage throw? Is it the play I love the most? No, not really. No real problems with design here. I don't hate the design massively until we get to what happens if you don't like this side of the field. So I've been saying for years, Shane, the Eagles suck out of structure. But anyway, like, there's just nothing out of structure. When Hurts decides he's not going to throw it there, compare it to what Bryce Young and the Panthers did this week out of structure. It's night and day. Jalen Hurts actually turns to his left here, and he's like, "Brilliant! I've got Johnny Wilson releasing to his left." And where's Johnny Wilson? Johnny Wilson's been engaged with a pass rusher for about 3 seconds and doesn't actually get out onto his route. But Jalen Hurts has literally turned backside, and he would have been open if he was like a second earlier. But he's too late. And he's too late because the Eagles leave a tight end and a wide receiver to block an edge defender on a 5-man rush. Why? The Eagles' offensive line is good enough to go 5-on-5. Go 5-on-5 and use a tight end if you want to go 6-on-5. You don't need a wide receiver and a tight end to combo block an edge on a 5-man pressure. Like, just get your offensive line to do it. So I don't love the backside design, but I'm saying all this, Shane, and I'm not going to be like the pro Hurts. I can already see the comments on the BGN article this week. You're too pro Hurts. I think you should rip it. I think it's a very tight window, but I think if you throw out of anticipation, you throw it in the corner, you hit your back foot and you let it rip, you can do it. And I think it does go back to the film and the thread throughout the entire game that Hurts is probably turning down these tight window throws more than he ever has, which is ironic because I've always said, Shane, I want an aggressive quarterback. I've rarely criticized Hurts for being over-aggressive. People that have listened for a while know that. So I'm being consistent in my analysis. I think he should rip this.
Yeah, I think you throw this to AJ Brown. Personally, I would like you to throw it. I think this is being a little too cautious and not wanting to turn the ball over. And, you know, Jalen Hurts hasn't had a turnover-worthy play in, 5 weeks? He hasn't had a big-time throw in 4 weeks. Those are PFF numbers. I generally don't like their grades, but I like their stats, and I think that's worth mentioning. And this ball, you could throw that, but I do have an issue with the design too, because you mentioned what's there if you don't like this side of the field. What's here if you don't like this route? If you don't like this out route to AJ Brown, you know what route Devontae Smith runs? A timing route.
No.
And I just love timing routes that aren't primaries because, you know, tons of quarterbacks, and certainly Jalen Hurts can come to a secondary timing route and get it off. Like, Devontae Smith's open if he's the primary, but he's not. And Hurts is not going to get to this. And even if you were going to do this, like, they're breaking at the same depth. How do you move from one route that breaks at whatever this is, 15 yards to a second
Same as
route that breaks at 15 yards. Yeah.
Same as the slant. Yeah, it's almost like you've got to pick one or the other, and there's not a progression you can go through. Yeah, I agree.
And so if that's what we're gonna do, just run Devontae Smith on a different route. Like
post corner, like just set him deep. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, run him on a post.
Crossing, whatever.
Have Johnny Wilson run a drag and bring your running back to like sit over the ball. Like there's things you could do to give yourself options. I hate the options on this play.
Yeah, you could run mesh, AJ Brown, and then run mesh underneath with Saquon and Devontae Smith running. There's loads you can do.
Yeah.
So we agree. He should throw it, but the design's not great either. So if you're keeping track at home, Hurts wasn't great. Design is meh, and the offensive line had like 3 bad busts on play action. So again, it's not one guy, but it's very, very fair to point out the passing game isn't good enough. Speaking of which, let's go through another design. Play 10. This is a mesh call. I don't know about you, but it seems like they run mesh horribly here because the wide receiver, and I think it's a tight end, they're like 3 yards apart on the whatever you call it, like the mesh point, as they would say, but it could be sort of designed to do that potentially. There are 2 things I hate about this. I like mesh a lot against man coverage, but it's a terrible play against zone, and Kurt Warner always calls out this when it comes to mesh. So you need a second answer if it's zone. So the mesh is Calcaterra and Devontae Smith. They're like 5 yards apart. I don't even really know what's happening here on the timing, but either way, anyway, it's not open. They pick this up easily. So then we go, right, AJ Brown. This is one of the stupidest routes I've ever seen, and it's not AJ's fault. AJ Brown he's like 2 yards inside of the cornerback. Now, the Eagles have run this play so much the last few weeks, Shane, where they motion AJ Brown inside, and then he runs outside, like a fake crossing route. I'm convinced the Panthers DB is like, yeah, you're coming outside. Like, just pause it here for us when he gets here, if you're watching live there. Run that across the field, my friend. The guy covering you is 4 yards outside you. So when you're designing the play, when you're talking about every finer detail of every play, as I keep saying, the finer details matter. It's the minuscule things that make you a great offense. Give AJ Brown the option. If the cornerback is playing you outside, carry the receiver across, carry the route across the formation. As long as Hurts knows he can do it, then he can throw it to him. Hurts actually wants to throw it to AJ Brown, even though it doesn't go against the narrative of them not being friends anymore. He's looking in that direction, but he can't throw that. And AJ Brown can moan all he wants about target, Shane, but he wasn't open that much in this game, except for a couple of short routes where Hurts did ignore him. But down the field, he was covered pretty well. And then, what do we get to? What's the backside option, Shane? A very deep backside dig, which does eventually break open. But by the time it's really open, Jalen Hurts is under a little bit of pressure. So I don't blame him for not throwing this. And in all honesty, Shane, when has Jalen Hurts ever thrown that's like his fourth read. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be better, but we've also got to be a bit realistic about who we are. He's not Peyton Manning. He's not Matt Stafford. He's not Tom Brady. He's not going to read 1, 2, 3, 4 backside dig throw. And by the way, neither is a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that are very, very good. You don't have to hit your backside dig. Not every quarterback has to do this. His mobility gives him other strengths. That means you should be able to simplify the passing game. To ask him to read mesh, no. AJ Brown, no. Get back to fourth read, backside dig. You're just asking. Basically, I think you're asking Jalen Hurts to do things that Jalen Hurts can't do. And maybe Kellen Moore has coached Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, and they can throw the backside dig. So, do you know what? You can say I'm being critical of Hurts, but at some point, you've got to know the QB you've got in front of you, and you've got to make adjustments to the QB. And if that means you can criticize Hurts for not being good enough, then be my guest. But I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league who can't make this play. And I think the offensive coordinator's job is to put them in a situation where they don't have to make this play, because I think it's too difficult. And I think you could even argue he's under pressure by the time that the backside dig even cuts it. Anyway, it's probably now. And he's still looking at AJ Brown. Again, I'm not going to kill Hurts for this one because I just don't think the design really sets him up for success. What about you?
The only thing I'll add on is as to what goes wrong with the mesh. This is the hole defender in the middle of the field. And I think the Panthers do a really good job. The hole defender just takes Devontae Smith. He sees what's happening. I would like for Grant Calcaterra to realize this is a play to beat man coverage. And the man that's covering Devontae Smith is 6 yards upfield and behind him. I don't need to worry about him. So I would love to see Calcaterra either run at the hole defender to kind of pick him off, or I would love to see him just ignore picking Devontae Smith's guy and just continue to run the drag, because his guy is also upfield and way outside. And if you just watch, like, he breaks down at Devontae Smith's guy, but if he just keeps running, now granted it is JC Horn that's on him, but if he either screens off this guy or if he just keeps running and doesn't try to screen off a guy that's not in the play to begin with, I think either of those guys could have been open. So Panthers played it well. The Eagles concept, again, just kind of a whiff.
Yep, and Panthers defensive and backfield played well. I thought all game. I thought the Panthers did well. We do have quite a few comments. What we'll do is we'll get through the remainder of the plays, guys, and then I think we'll pop back to them because we probably should be a little bit quicker, dare I say.
Probably.
Dare I say. But yeah, I think this is what I hope this is what people want. I think it needed to be a passing game week this week. Let's go to play 12. This is my least favorite design in the whole game. I hate this. And if you're going to criticize Hurts, then I'm going to criticize the play calling as well. The Eagles have been brilliant against the Blitz this year. We've said it for so long, haven't we? The Eagles have been so good against the Blitz. They weren't good to this game. Like, this is an obvious pressure look. The cornerback is flying pre-snap. And by the way, they blow protection once again. When a cornerback is flying downhill, Shane, where the hell is the hot offside adjustment for a receiver to run something short? Why are you running 3 verticals, basically? I know it comes open, but it's sort of not the point, because by the time it comes open, Jalen Hurts is on the floor. Like, there has to be an adjustment here. This is just literally like Johnny Wilson deep, AJ Brown deep, Devontae Smith deep, when the Panthers have got like 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't know. Pass protection, once again, really bad. Cam Jurgens passes it off to somebody who's not there. And this isn't play action. Well, it is, I guess, a tiny play action, but not really. Bad pass protection, bad design. Nothing Hurts can do. If I missed anything?
I don't hate the design too much. It's just, I don't know what Cam Jurgens is doing.
Although you don't hate the design, surely like the whole thing the Eagles have been good at this year is getting the ball that quick against the Blitz. This feels very 2023. Like, they're sitting a cornerback. We can create a deep shot. I know that they haven't gone down the field enough, but do you not think that, I know you're showing the behind the angle, when the cornerback blitzes, surely Devontae Smith has got to then have like a side adjustment for that. Like, yeah, he's right in front of him. You could throw it to the guy. Just literally stand there and throw it. Like, we don't do any of that ever.
Dare I say this is probably the only look the Eagles could actually throw a bubble screen against it.
And by the way, 2nd and 2 as well, right? So even if you pick up a yard or 2, fine. Yeah. Like, this can't happen on 2nd and 2. You can't go back to 3rd and long on this play. I agree with you. The design does come open if they could be better at pass protection. But, like, come on, it's 2nd and 2. Like,
the reason I don't mind not having a side adjust there is you are max protecting against a 6-man pressure. So you're still, like we talked earlier, the Eagles offensive line should be good enough to man-on-man block. And you're doing that and having a running back in the backfield. And Cam Jurgens just blows it. I don't know what he's doing. So it's not probably the way that I would go attack this, but I understand why they do it. I don't have a problem with them wanting to push the ball downfield here, especially since we know we've got the bodies to block this up. I would put it more, I'd design it differently, but I would definitely put this on Cam Jurgens up front. I don't know what he's doing there.
But even this, it's not a fault by Cam Jurgens, is it? It's like, it's not he doesn't get beat. It's an error. It's another error. It's a communication error. Like, we're in week 14, and every game this year, there's been errors. Like, guys running last week, we had guys running the wrong routes, and it's week 13 last week, and we have guys like running the same routes. Cam Jurgens does not get beat here. He's passing this off, and it's like, it's week 14, guys. And this is what I mean when I blame the entire organization, the entire Eagles passing game coaching staff. There are too many errors for it to be week 14. Let's move on. This one's quite an interesting one. Play 13. It's 3rd and 10. The play after this, Jalen Hurts runs for 35 yards. Do I think he should check it down? Yes, I think he probably should, because I think the first 8 still get picks up. But you know what? Sometimes you can't moan too much when your quarterback makes a play like this on what do you call it? On 3rd down. Yeah, I will just reply really quickly. I know we said we'd do comments in a second, but for those commenting like, I didn't realize the show was today. Yeah, that's my fault, Krabby and toilet paper. We do always record on a Wednesday, except for this week and next week, just because Christmas heck carnage. We'll try to do a better job of tweeting it out before the show airs as well. But yeah, Christmas period is a little bit nuts, so apologies if you're just joining us. But yeah, what do you think about this play? Should he check it down? Should he throw the deep post? I think he's under pressure before the deep post actually comes open. So once again, haven't got a huge issue here personally.
Yeah, if the choice is between checking it down to Kenny Gainwell or running behind Kenny Gainwell as a lead blocker, I will take Hurts running the ball every time. So I liked him pulling the ball and running there. And I mean, Hurts was fantastic as a scrambler in this game. And this just felt like sequentially, this was like the epitome of the Eagles offense. They have like back to back to back really good run plays. And then they decide to dial up a shot on 2nd and 2 and take a sack. And then Hurts bails out a play on 3rd and 10 with a fantastic scramble.
Yeah, and it wasn't the only time that he bowed out. Poor protection. Right, do you want to take play 14? Because I think you want to talk more about this play. And then we've got a couple more to show after this before we touch on the defense very quickly, because we've got offense heavy this week. Yeah, talk to me about why you hate Jalen Hurts throwing touchdown, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Crash. I feel like I draw this and talk about it like every week, but the Eagles absolutely love it, especially in the red zone. Outside guy runs the in route. The inside guy runs like, I don't know. It's not a corner route. It's like a rounded corner-ish route. I don't know. It's a great concept against man coverage. And this is man coverage. And at the snap of the ball, you're going to see for some reason, the Panthers safety bails away from the Eagles' 2 best receivers, and there's no help over the middle. So this is about as clean of a look as you'll get, and either one of these guys are open. So at the top of the drop right here, like A.J. Brown's open. Anytime you've got a guy running an in-breaking route with inside leverage and a guy running an out-breaking route with outside leverage and nobody to help in either spot, that's a great place to be in. Hurts turns it down. I mean, Brandon Graham told us that he and A.J. Brown aren't friends anymore. Now I need to know what happened with him and Devontae Smith, because he threw one to Devontae Smith earlier. Something happened on the sideline. They're not friends anymore now either. Totally being facetious before you guys turn off the podcast. I don't know why he comes off of this. He should not come off of this. He should throw either one of these. I do appreciate the speed with which he comes off of it, though. I don't know why he doesn't like it, but for whatever reason, he doesn't like it. And I like that he does get to the backside of the play. He doesn't panic. You can see from the back view how quickly he snaps his head over. Well, the camera's kind of blocking it, but so here we go. He takes his drop. Back foot, we're already over. And we've seen Hurts try to run in situations like this, but he stays in the pocket and he hits the second reaction throw to Grant Calcaterra. So I love how poised he is in turning it down. I like how quickly he moves through it. I don't understand why he comes off of it. I think both the guys were open. And that's a concept they run a lot and they like a lot. So I'm not sure what he saw there, but anyways, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are it's the best bad Jalen Hurts play ever. I think it's like an unbelievable play, and I'm so glad to see him go through 1 to 2 and get to 3 and throw to the tight end over the middle of the field. It's a kind of play that 2 years ago we'd be going, oh my God, he's getting it. This is like an awesome, awesome play. There's a big issue, though. He doesn't need to turn down 1 and 2. So I don't know, Shane. This is the one play when I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what he's seeing. If I'm being really generous, maybe he thinks they're going to banjo it and they're going to pass the receivers off, and that's why he does it. But I don't know, man. Like,
can I also just say how much I love this route concept on the backside?
Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about backside comeback. Just look at the 3 of them. Like, just don't. But let's just, in a hypothetical world, everyone, let's imagine that that Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are covered. This is like the best play of Jalen Hurts this season. This is awesome. 1, 2, bang, back foot, middle of the field. Like, this is awesome. The problem is 1 and 2 are wide open. So I don't know, man. I'm going to try not to be too negative when the Eagles score touchdowns. And that's my general philosophy. I'll try and break down plays when they suck and not when they score touchdowns. And it was cool to see Grant Calcaterra get his first one. So I don't know how to say about that one. I really don't. Right, let's move on. Let's go to 15. 15 is the stuff they need to do 5,000 times more every game. The Eagles ran counter like 13 times this game, I'm guessing, but probably genuinely, and they killed the Panthers with it. If you are ruining a team, Shane, with something in the run game, do you know what your passing game should do? It should take advantage of how you are killing teams in the pass game. Oh, sorry, in the run game. The Eagles passing game does not take advantage of it. They run play action, and that's about it. This was the first time all game I was like, finally, they used counter because they've killed the Panthers with counter all game. So run counter, but it's an RPO and just throw it to AJ Brown. Like, I don't know, man. Do it more. Do it more. I know they do it again like 2 plays later and it doesn't work, which we'll come to, but they just need to do this stuff more. Like, I think they're scared of the like man downfield, illegible man downfield or whatever, but they've got to work on it. They've got to rep it. They've got to send the videos to the league office to make sure they know they're doing things legally, because they simply have to run more of this stuff. Because if they're not running more of this stuff, they are just not taking advantage of their success in the run game.
Yeah, I agree. And if you like, let's play a game. If we're thinking about scripting opening drives, what are the Eagles best at? Give me some things that they are best at offensively.
Yeah, running the ball, counter, quick slants, basically off the run game, RPOs when there's not a guy called downfield. If you're going to talk about how to script, I would basically run the hell out of the ball. I would drag a safety down and then I'd throw it over their heads. Not hang. And basically every single time the Eagles run, like every time, I'm tagging a slant backside of it. And if I hate the look of the line of scrimmage in the run game, I'm just throwing the slant. Like literally every play.
To me, it's gap scheme runs, specifically counter and counter bash, building RPO game off of that, and then like under center play action, bootlegs, pistol bootlegs, those sorts of things.
I don't do enough of it still. I don't do enough of it.
And then tempo, and then going tempo,
Yeah.
going up tempo always seems to help. Like that needs to coalesce into a better opening script. Gap scheme runs, gap scheme RPOs, bootlegs, and tempo. Like that's how I would try to build the Eagles opening possessions. But let's talk about the one that doesn't work a couple plays later. And I put them up side by side here because I want to talk.
Explain.
So first of all, let's watch AJ Brown on the first one. Watch how he jogs off the line of scrimmage. And then he goes. Okay, so when we watch the second one and we see AJ Brown jog his route, we do need the context that he jogs off the line the first time too. He's selling this as a run play. On the second play, he never actually goes though. And so the question is why? If we look at the situation, the first one, the ball is on the far hash. The safety is on the near hash, and he rotates to the middle of the field at the snap. I think we're reading this linebacker, right? This linebacker takes a step in. We throw the slant behind him. On the second play, the ball is on the near hash. We're in a 6-man front, so we've only got one linebacker, and we've got a safety closer to the numbers. So there's a lot less space. I feel like the read on this play is the safety. The safety is the guy that can drive down and make a play on this. Now, I'm not sure how they're reading this. I'm not sure how they're teaching this. Maybe they're reading the defensive end. I don't think it makes sense to read the linebacker. I think the reason AJ Brown jogs this route is if you watch the safety doesn't bite on the play action. He's just here. I mean, he takes a step, but if you're throwing this slant now, like, I don't know. So I can understand AJ Brown needs to run his route. You need to run your route. You need to expect the ball, especially if like you are the only passing option on this play. If Hurts pulls it, he is throwing it to you. So you need to run your route. I kind of think Hurts should just hand this ball off. But I don't know how they're teaching this and reading this. To me, you would be reading that safety, and the safety would dictate this to be a handoff. But again, I don't know for sure.
That's my issue, is I don't know exactly what they're looking at. I think Hurts might worry about the edge defender standing in front of this. In all honesty, I think the problem here is that the Panthers defense has adjusted. I think a 6-man front is tough to run counter on. And I think that the edge defender and the safety are in a good position to stop the slants for AJ Brown.
It certainly looks like he's reading the edge.
Yeah, so I think the answer here is that Hurts maybe makes the incorrect call and he should just hand this ball off. in all honesty. But by the way, I think it gets played up at the line of scrimmage anyway. I don't think either way there's a good answer on here.
Right.
I just don't think the play particularly works. And maybe it's an example of something working and then the Eagles not building off of it. So maybe they could have done something different here. Maybe they could have run like a slant and go, for example. Maybe like they could do a little bit better. Right, final one, Shane, because we really have done an hour on the offense, and I want to get to a couple of comments as well. The final one is just like the Eagles do enough. It is another comeback. Sorry, Shane. But it's a comeback to your primary read, and it's AJ Brown, and he's isolated. The Eagles didn't isolate AJ Brown enough in this game. I would be running deep slants, deep comebacks, go routes to AJ Brown all the time, isolated as the X receiver. And for all the talk about Jalen Hurts, can he throw it in time? Can he throw comeback routes? Like, I think he can. And I think you just need to make it easier on your quarterback. And that's my generic thing about the game. I don't think Hurts was good. I'm not going to sit here and defend him, but I don't think the offense does a good enough job making it easy on him. I just don't think the passing game worked in this one, in conclusion. And I think they've got to really, really self-scout what they've done this week. It feels like they will, but they're playing against a very good defense this weekend. So I don't think it's going to magically turn around everything like perfectly, because Mike Tomlin's an exceptionally good coach and the Steelers defense is always well coached. But the Eagles aren't winning a Super Bowl with this poor of a passing game, no matter how good the run game is. It does have to be a little bit better. Seeing as we have gone a long time, any final thoughts on the Eagles passing game?
Yeah, that's a great throw to AJ Brown to pick up that first down on 3rd and 13. The problem is that they lose yardage on first down. And what is their answer on 2nd and 13? It's a curl route to Devontae Smith. Hurts is a smidge late. It's a really good play by the defender, but it's easy to sit on curl routes when that's your only answer on long situations. And so the Eagles come back on 3rd and 13, and they also run all curl routes to the sticks. Got to have something else. Like, that can't be the only answer, especially when you're not throwing the vertical ball anymore. So it feels like if the Eagles get into a 3rd and long, it will be curl routes to the sticks. Just sit on that, and you're going to be able to make a play.
Should we do the blame game? Everyone say a blame game before we finish up? I'll start. I'd go like Hurts 50%. Design, I don't know, 25. Offensive line mistakes, 15. And what does that leave me with? 10 receivers. 10. Yeah, I still think the receivers aren't playing. I didn't think the receivers played out of this world in this game, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get like Hurts. I've now become a pro Hurts guy online, which is ironic to me because I never was. I think he played well. I just don't think the scheme was particularly good either. And I think there's some really easy stuff they could do to make it better. And I hope that they really do look long and hard about what they called this week and basically start thinking that they need to do more. Like, I watched some other teams, Shane. I just watched like some teams throw like a quick slant, or they throw like a screen to the backside and the guy runs for like 30 yards. Like, it feels like everything the Eagles do in the passing game is hard. Everything needs to be really, really, really good. There we go. Any final thoughts?
So in short, what you're saying, the answer to the question, what needs to be better on the offense is
everything.
Passing.
Yeah. There we go. Screw me, AJ Brown.
Yeah. All right. That's a very long pass game review that was not as structured as what we normally do on offense. You guys can let us know later what you think of that format. We're not going to adopt that like permanently, but it was sort of a byproduct of this week, and we're going to be in a similar situation next week.
Saying go to hours. I appreciate the love on the show. It is 9 o'clock where I am, and I've got about 3,000 words to write before I go to bed. So that is not going to happen. But yeah, there's some good comments going in there. We do read them all. Sorry, we haven't put many on because we went through that very quickly. But there are a few great ones.
Did we go through that very quickly?
Sorry,
I don't know if we can say that.
Yeah, and if you want more, Patreon, Shane's All-22 pass review is going to be even more detailed, and it doesn't have me defending Jalen Hurts, so that'd be even better.
It is recorded. It's 33 minutes of breaking it down. I have to do the intro and outro, and but yeah, unfortunately, we cannot go 2 hours because Jonny needs to sleep, and my kids are going to be home from school in 30 minutes.
Also, the reason why I can do this lovely job that I have, as well as my actual job, is because I write for BGN, and I do need to get the article out. Very much so, because I'm very lucky to write for BGN, but there are deadlines in every world, and that offensive line. I've already written by the way, if you want to know, if you want even more, guys, my offensive film review has not even finished yet, and I'm up to 2,200 words. So I reckon I could hit the 2,500 to 3K mark this week. So if you haven't got enough, check out that as well. Right, shall we do a quick fire 15 minutes defense stuff, Shane?
Yes.
I'm not going to go ages because, full disclosure, I watched the offense in way more depth than the defense this week. Just being fully honest with everyone, we're never going to lie and say we do things like differently.
Let me go first.
Yeah, you go first. Start us off.
Okay, so I do have 3 points on defense. They'll all be fast. I'm not going to break these down in depth, but one thing I noticed in this game that was an issue for the Eagles was their rush lane integrity. There was a lot of times that Bryce Young was able to escape from the pocket, and a lot of times it came down to rush lane integrity. And so I've got a few clips here. I think they might actually all be from the final drive, but the 3rd and 11 with 2.5 minutes left, I think Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith get way too far upfield in this pass rush. Like, look how deep they get. I just don't think you want to be 9 yards deep in the end zone rushing the passer. And it gives the coverage is fantastic downfield, but it gives Bryce Young a window to escape. And I mean, Josh Sweat still almost gets in for a safety. Darius Slay almost tips that pass. It's a great play by Bryce Young, but it's one example of which I think there's a few of the rush lane integrity not being very good. I'll show a couple more. I can't even remember who I thought was at fault on this one, so I'll watch it and tell you as we see. But this is also the final drive, and it's Jalen Carter on this one, and it's less that he gets too far upfield, is that he slides, he falls down, and whenever you've got a guy that Jalex Hunt's going to drop into coverage, so Jalen Carter is now your edge defender, and when Jalen Carter rushes, God, the Panthers are so slow snapping the ball. But right here, he's getting too far upfield, and then he slides, and now you've got Bryce Young off and running, and Jalex Hunt makes a really good tackle in the open field, which is fortunate because it's man coverage behind. Like, this is a 15, 20-yard run if Jalex Hunt doesn't take Bryce Young down. So rush lane integrity, and then we get again to a 3rd and 4 at the end of the game. And again, this is just too easy. Like, Josh Sweat goes flying upfield, and look at this rush lane. It just can't be that easy to escape. Now, the pursuit's good. He ends up throwing it away, but I thought there were several times in this game. I could show some more where the rush lane integrity wasn't good, and Bryce Young made them pay. And so that's something that the Eagles did really well against Lamar Jackson a week ago. Didn't do it as well with Bryce Young this week. So hopefully we'll see that improve going forward.
Yeah, I think it's because Bryce Young's never done that in his life. Like, what the hell was that? He was awesome. He was so good outside of structure. So good. Right, I would take my first point, which you've stolen my clip. I'm going to talk a little bit of Jalex Hunt. So Jalex Hunt, people always like the new guy, because you know what Twitter's like and social media is like. The new guy's always fun. I struggle with Jalex Hunt as a pass rusher, and nothing I'm saying here is like critical of Jalex Hunt. He should never be playing this much this year. It's not a problem what he's doing out there. I just think that he could absolutely do a little bit more. Well, not do a little bit more even. Just the Eagles could do more. Like, Bryce Huff should be playing basically. I'll show you a couple of plays. There's one that I just looked at him as a pass rusher, and I'm going to give him some positives as well. There was one play in particular, and now I'm obviously going to struggle to find it. It was film 3 on my defensive film thread, Shane, where you can just see that like the pass rushing skills are really struggling. Like, I think this rep could last like 10 seconds, and I think he struggled to get through. He did have one nice pass rush, I noticed, but I thought he was a little bit slow for line of scrimmage. I don't think he timed the snap particularly well. I think he's not entirely sure what to do with his hands. I think he just tries to go around the outside every play. It's a little bit Nolan Smith from last year. He doesn't look like a natural pass rusher there at all. But I will give him pop, because in coverage, in open space, he is really, really athletic. So play 11 of my film thread, you have already showed it, but just to repeat it from a different perspective, you were talking about rush lanes. Bryce Young made Nakobe Dean look silly in one play in the open field. This is a ridiculously athletic play. There are not many edge defenders in the world who can make this play, and that's probably because there are not many edge defenders that look like
that used to be safeties.
To be fair, that were former safeties. But do you know what? I've said this before. He does not need to be a great pass rusher to be a success. Because if you can drop into coverage and do this in a quarterback out in the open field, you're already going to get snaps in this defense. So obviously I want to see his pass rushing develop. I didn't think it was a great game overall. I think he's a little bit lightweight in the run game, but that stuff in space that he can do is really impressive.
All right. There's somebody asked me on Twitter about Jalix Hunt, and I was like, I think there's some flashes. I think he needs to work on rushing the passer for sure. The plan's just not quite there yet. I think he's light in run defense, but the effort's always there. And with the effort and the athleticism, you can be a valuable player while you're developing along the way. And I don't think he would play at all. Like he'd play special teams probably, but I don't think he would play defensive snaps if Brandon Graham and Bryce Huff weren't injured, but he's getting those snaps and he's not being a liability. And I think that's a win for a late 3rd round rookie that you were anticipating being a project probably for a multi-year arc. So
yeah, the Eagles do miss, they do miss Huff, although he wasn't very good. They could really do with those 3rd down pass rushing snaps, even if they're not getting anything on early downs right now. And they really can't afford another injury edge because they are short. Right. Talk me through your second point, Shane. You can talk about the final drive.
Yes, I'm going to save that for last, though.
All right, go for it. Is this the DeJean? Is this the Cooper?
Yeah, let's talk Cooper
yeah.
DeJean. Cooper DeJean's been great. This was a rough game for Cooper DeJean, and I still think there's positives. And Adam Thielen is probably he's a tough matchup for Cooper DeJean because he's a really savvy route runner and he's physical. And I thought, he worked Cooper DeJean at times. I saw people said on Twitter that Cooper DeJean's kryptonite is white people, which I thought was a comment that made me laugh while I was afraid the Eagles were going to lose to the Panthers. But I'll show you a few plays here, things that I like. I love his pre-snap communication. He's so good at getting guys sorted out. He does not look like a rookie when he's handling motion and shifts. And you see him pushing Quinyon Mitchell out there, and then he plays good coverage behind. And you just don't see really coverage mix-ups with Cooper DeJean. But you do see him get beat. Here he gets beat on the out and up by Adam Thielen. And honestly, I think this is just a really good route. He does such a good job. He sells hard with his head looking back inside and beats him upfield. And one of the knocks on DeJean was his hip flexibility and things and why it might be problematic for him to play in the slot. And when you face a really savvy route runner like Adam Thielen, you can see where that comes to bear. I believe this is a fire zone blitz. He gets beat on too, and he kind of just gets bodied at the top of the route. It's offensive pass interference, but that happens a dozen times a game and it never gets called. You should always commit offensive pass interference. And Thielen just kind of knocks him backwards and picks up the first down. And so Thielen had some really good reps in communication. I think this is one here. He's locking on to Thielen pre-snap. He's pointing that all out. I think he has pretty good coverage, right? That's the interception play, but the coverage was good by DeJean. And so Thielen didn't just cook him all day. He had good reps. I think this is the last one I put on here. Let me see what this one is. Oh yeah. Or he passes off these underneath routes and he's pointing it out the whole play. I just think his communication's so good. His tackling is generally good, although he struggled tackling at times this game. He was always going to have some trouble in the slot against certain matchups, specifically quicker guys, really savvy route runners. We were talking before the season, do you put him in the slot because he's going to help your run defense, even though he might have troubles there in coverage? And we haven't seen the troubles in coverage until this game. I think it's a good learning experience for him. Not concerned about him at all, but I thought it was worth pointing out the communication goods from him and that he did struggle overall in this game.
Yeah, he struggled. He got beat. He got beat a few times. He held his own on some snaps, but Thielen's good, man. What a weird guy. He beat Slay a couple of times as well. There was a Zach Bourne sack that he was wide open against Slay man coverage, and Slay doesn't get beat very often.
Yeah.
The savvy white vet receiver. He was really good. Speaking of CJ, GJ, I'll talk about him a little bit. We criticized him heavily, and oh my god, he flew away like an absolute. He flew around like a nutter in this game. Honestly, that hit when I think he might have knocked himself out for the second time was just what are you doing, my friend? Chill. But there were a couple of snaps that I really liked. The second film play on my thread. This is I believe this is half quarter. So they're playing half field at the bottom, and then quarter up top, which means he's a quarter safety, which means he has eyes on the slot receiver before making his way to the outside receiver. You can't play any better. You can't play any better. He helps out with the inside receiver, then sees the throw going to the outside and just crushes the guy. Like, this is as hard as a legal hit as you will see. And I'm so glad I didn't flag it because it was perfectly legal. I actually saw on Panthers Twitter them moaning about Leggett dropping this. And I was like, Jesus Christ, lads. Like, have you played sports before? Like, you can have a little bit of a go at the guy. But like,
I would have been out for the game.
Absolutely lit up. Like, give the guy a little bit of a break. You've already shown the interception, so to be honest, I don't need to show it too much, but I think he just reads it very, very well. And yeah, no major film on GJ this week. I just think it's a really good sign. I think McCollum really struggled on the rewatch. There was a snap in run defense, Shane, where he ran into his blocker rather than the running back. I don't know if you've seen it, but like it was like he was actively seeking the blocker out, and I was like, where are we going? And I think defensive, and I thought Maddox was pretty horrendous as a safety, by the way, but I'm not going to get into that this week either. The Eagles desperately are struggling for safeties at the moment, and credit to Gardner-Johnson for being able to play next to some pretty average backups this week. I still think he had a really good week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to talk about the final drive, and Vic Fangio came out of the 2-minute warning. You know, it's frustrating as a fan when you're watching 3rd and 11, backed up to the goal line. We miss the safety and we give up a 30-yard completion. And the Panthers move the ball to midfield. And then it's the 2-minute warning. And some switch flipped in Vic Fangio's brain during the 2-minute warning. And he was like, you know what? I'm fed up with this and I'm done. And after the 2-minute warning, the Eagles ran 8 plays. 7 of the 8 plays were man coverage, and all 7 of them had a blitzing linebacker. In the rest of the game combined, there was only 13 man coverage calls, and a linebacker only rushed in 3 of them. So Vic Fangio was like, you know what? We're just going to blitz. And I love that mentality. We joke about him being on tilt. I also think there's an element of, if you're going to make a mistake or you're going to score fast, but we're not ending this with you scoring a touchdown as time expires. And so we can show a few plays here, and this cuts both ways, and I'll just run through a few and you can see. And he did a lot of different stuff. Like sometimes he blitzed a linebacker and he dropped out both edge rushers. So he actually had like 2 hole defenders, which is what he does on this play. And this is the one where Jalix Hunt makes the tackle. Some plays he went cover 0. And when he goes cover 0, Darius Slay gets beat, and Xavier Leggett just drops the game-winning touchdown. But 2 there, I think there was a point of like, if you're going to score, you're going to do it with 55 seconds left and give us a chance to go get a field goal. But the last play of the game, this is such an incredible play in coverage by Darius Slay, who the play before, Darius Slay gets burned, and he should give up the game-winning touchdown. Now it's Darius Slay against Adam Thielen, their guy that has been eating you alive all game. He's in man coverage, and he's going to track him all the way across the field. And he makes the pass breakup to win the game on 4th and 9. And so I just thought it was interesting. And this is not the first time we've seen Fangio do this. I think it was against the Jags. It might not. It was another game that was close where he just went like super blitz heavy at the end of the game. I think it's something at this point that like, 1-score game, like if you can potentially score and take the lead inside of 2 minutes, I think Fangio is just going to dial up the heat.
Yeah, I have a little bit of not a different take. I sort of get where Fangio's coming from. I don't know if I think I put this in my film thread. I think I said like, I love it. I love the chaos. I respect it, but I think maybe he was a little bit too aggressive. Like, I think against a really good offense like the Chiefs, if you've got 2 minutes left and you're like, do you know what? If you score, we get the ball back, fine. I think against the Panthers, it was like a 90-yard drive as well, wasn't it? Like, they got there like a serious amount of distance.
It might have been like 98.
Yeah, I think like you can try and stop them by playing a normal defense. I don't think they're so good that you have to. He just felt like he was full on like tilt mode. Like honestly, I was watching the last drive and I was like, what's he doing? And funny enough, it leads into my last play, Shane, which I finished very quickly with just like, we all watch film, we all break down plays, and we all look at everything. But sometimes you've got to account for luck. The NFL is a lucky sport. Sometimes you get a bit of luck. I think Fangio got a little bit lucky because I think it's the play before my final play. Like, Leggett drops an easy touchdown. Like, we can credit Fangio for being really aggressive, but that should be a touchdown. And I think people are going to kill Slay here, but I know Slay's argument because he spoke to us in the past about it, where he would argue that he's sitting on short to intermediate routes when they blitz, and he's not covering deep stuff, because if it runs deep, it's almost not his fault. He gets beat badly here, don't get me wrong, but he's not sitting on the deep stuff, and this should be a touchdown. Like, I think you could be a little bit more conservative here, as much as I respect the aggressiveness of Fangio. I think on another day, we're all going mental saying, why is he blitzing? And the reason why I felt he got a little bit mad was because there was one that he blitzed that ended up with a column on Adam Thielen. And I was like, yeah, that's just not good. Like, I'm sorry. You can say, like, let's go, let's blitz, let's go mad. But when you're putting McCollum on Adam Thielen, that's not great. But I will just end, Shane, by saying sometimes luck goes the other way. The Eagles only gave up, 2 touchdowns? And let's say they should have given up that touchdown. They also gave up a touchdown on the drive where Jalen Carter made an awesome play, knocked the ball up in the air on 4th down, and the Panthers ended up catching it. So if you go, I think it was play 8 on my film thread. I thought live it was lucky, but it's actually a really good play by Jalen Carter. He realizes he's not getting there. He stands right in the pass lane and knocks us up in the air. And I love how angry he is when he realized they've caught it. He's got like sulking. You can see him like, oh, he's caught that. And you can see him like, oh, no. Just a really good play, like really, really good play. And football, you get lucky. We break down everything, but you know what? It's a game of inches, as they say. And they got lucky at the end of the game, but I think they were unlucky earlier on. So overall, I'm not panicking about the defense. We obviously did this very quickly. I thought they got moved a bit in the run game. I think they struggled a little bit in man coverage at times on Phelan. I would like to see a little bit less blitzing on the final drive. But I also think Bryce Young played exceptionally well. And he's a guy who seems to just have like an absolute like screw it mentality at the moment, Bryce Young. And he's just like, I'm going out there making plays and I don't really care what happens. And not many quarterbacks play with that mentality very often. So I'm not overly concerned about the defense after a game where they gave up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the defense. It wasn't a great game for the defense, but you know, I'm not. I still feel really confident about them. Definitely some concerns about the passing game that we might have spent way too long on, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'm assuming you did from the live comments that we're asking for a 2-hour show, but unfortunately we're not going to have that for you this week. Although, Johnny, I don't know how we're going to fit this in around the holidays. We do need to get a mailbag episode.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
But we'll talk about that off air.
Commenting about Patreon and the thing. I know we plug it all the time. I promise, guys, if you're listening, that Discord is so much fun. I've never been a big Discord guy. We've got like a stats channel and everyone can just post stuff and make Shane go and look it up, which is good fun. We'll have a draft. We've got a draft channel, but it's obviously very new. Eagles chat, general chat. We get to know each other. It's so much better than discussing on Twitter. Like, I very rarely discuss on Twitter. So if you can, I know not everyone can, but if you can share a little bit, I think it's $4.50 a month if you get the All-22 pass review as well. But even just free gets you in the film thread. In the Discord, sorry. Yeah, if you want to chat to us more about the plays, we do talk about the All-22 basically all the time. And just trust me when I say you won't want to go back to talking to us on Twitter if you jump on. There you go.
Yeah, I used to try to respond to all the comments on Twitter, and
I
can't. I can't do that anymore. But B,
he's too famous, guys. He's got 30,000 followers now. He's too famous.
B, I
ought to set a fair reply to him.
That was cool, but and I almost didn't notice it because it doesn't pop up all the comments and notifications anymore. That's why I stopped responding to everything. I just happened to click on that clip because I was trying to watch it full screen and I noticed he commented. So, anyways, yeah, I spend a lot of that time now hanging out in the Discord instead. So come check it out. Free 1-week trial. Go sign up for the $5 a month tier. For your free 1-week trial, my film review will be posted later today, so you can check that out too. Get in the Discord for a week. We think you'll want to stick around. And if not, that's totally fine. We appreciate everybody tuning in and supporting here. The Eagles Pinpool Network on YouTube, on whatever podcasting platform you're on. Go check it all out, and we will catch you guys next week. By the way, give us thoughts on this format because we're going to have to figure something out for next week too. But we will catch you guys next week for another episode of On the Shane Page.